Welcome to 24 Astro. In this video I will talk about having a stellium in your 5th house. So this is what I have in my chart. So stellium means having 3 planets or more in one specific house. And in my case, just so that you can feel the resonance if you have the same in your chart, I have my moon, my Mercury, my Venus and Saturn in the 5th house in Pisces. I had such hard time relating to this placements in the beginning. I read so many books on this topic and watched so many YouTube videos to try to grasp what the 5th house is. In my understanding and how I view it, it is the energy that is this I kind of view it like this. So you have the ego, and the ego wants to create. It wants to perform, it wants to kind of come up with its own thing to show the world. And this is the 5th house for me. So if you look at the keywords, it's always like playfulness, expression, self-expression, even inner child, and romance and flirting. So it's more this easy breezy kind of energy, and this is exactly how I view it now. So it's more of this like youthful, wanting to express kind of energy that wants to be seen, the performer inside. And depending on what planets, what archetypes you do have in this house, it will differ, of course. So for me, for example, since I do have my moon here, and it's also in Pisces, it becomes like a non-negotiable thing for me that I really need to self-express. And since I do have Saturn here, for the longest time I did censor myself a lot, and I really censored in a way that I thought of what to say, and then I thought what is appropriate to say, and then I kind of adjusted and like camouflaged myself to fit in what I thought was appropriate. And this censorship is really damaging, as I do have my moon here, and the moon is the inner world, like the non-negotiable needs that I have. It's like my soul's expression. And this, you can imagine, is very damaging. I always felt such a big like hollow emptiness from this that I wanted to express, and I wanted to get more and more free in my expression. So it is this energy, this area, since the house placement is where you can see these kinds of energies, these archetypes in action. And the area, when it comes to the 5th house, is where we are expressing ourselves. Where we are creating, where we are, and I like to think about it this way. I kind of like, you fragment your soul into small pieces and then you show the world. So it is this kind of like you're like I get the image now of like you're a factory producing something, and this can be any type of creativity and self-expression. And in my case, it is talking, expressing myself through YouTube, like having my ideas heard. And I also love to graphic design. I just love that energy of pouring myself into something and then like being kind of like you're like experimenting and co-creating, and the hardship that can come with that, especially since I do have Saturn here. It has been a lot of resistance, and also I do have my Chiron in opposition to the stellium, so that creates a lot of vulnerability for me when it comes to expressing myself. In the end of this video I will do a voiceover where I talk about the stellium in the different zodiac signs. And when it comes to stelliums, so maybe you have a stellium, most likely you do, or someone that you love or are interested in does have a stellium here. And it's difficult to talk about the stellium in a video form because it does really matter which kind of planets you do have here. But I will keep it loose and talk about what it means in this particular house. So again, it's the place where the ego wants to give back, it wants to express. And there is a shadow here that can be very harsh to work with, since it's kind of also in the realm of Leo energy. So we want to be a performer, but there's shadows to this. There's like some dark hidden aspects that we can be careful to look out for. And this is where it can be a thing of wanting validation. And this is a bit difficult because we do want validation. We want to fit into a group. We want to fit into the tribe so that they will accept us and that we are loved and appreciated. So it's very human. But what we really need here, if we have a lot of energy in the 5th house, we want to really connect or have a relationship to the creative force within ourselves. And this we can only feel if we tap into creating for our own sake. Because if you smudge, or if you if you taint the energy of creation in the sense that you're doing it just to get applause. And of course, this is not black and white. Like, you can still do it for yourself and for validation, but not neglecting the doing it for yourself part. Because if you do it just to get validation, then people will feel that. And this has been very prominent in my own journey. I have 2 companies. I have a company where I speak to women who overeat and help them regain a sense of empowerment when it comes to food. And then I have astrology. So I did a module for the the company is called Fit by Food. So I did a module for that, and that was the first module that I did. And everything, just need to say this, everything about creativity and my understanding and relationship to it happened for me after my Saturn return. And like I mentioned, I do have Saturn here, so it's so funny. Like, I never really reflected or identified with a person that is creative. Like, never. I thought I was not creative because I did have this belief or idea that creativity was just people like painting. A very outdated picture of creativity, but that's how I felt. And then after my Saturn return, I realized I always been super creative. Like, I created graphic designs and sold it when I was a child. Like, I could spend hours doing this, but like, it never connected in my mind that I was creative. And that's also because not just Saturn, but also like the opposition to my Chiron in Virgo. So I'm very perfectionistic when it comes, and critical when it comes to my creativity. So that's kind of like a fun note. If you have Saturn here, this might be something to reflect on if this happens to you as well, that you do have kind of like a blind spot when it comes to this area. Because we have Saturn here, it takes up until our Saturn return to really get mastery or like consciousness here. But it's back to the 2 companies. So the first one that I did, I created a module. It was such a strain. I felt like such resistance to creating that module. And it took me like half a year to create it. And never, like maybe once or twice I was in flow, but every time I always had to push myself to do it. Just because I knew that I needed this module to be out there and I want to work with this. So the motivation to create the module was to gain validation, we could say. And what happened when I was done? It was not good. I was critical of myself. I'm not pleased with it. But then I felt momentum and inspiration to do astrology. And I felt a call to do a module for the astrology channel, to do it in particularly in the Scorpio rising energy. So I did a module and everything just flowed. It was fun, and I mainly did it because I wanted to do it for myself. And when I did that, it was easy breezy, everything came, inspiration came, I felt energized, alive. And then, like, when I was done, it felt like I felt energized. And that is two very different energies when it comes to creativity. One is for yourself and one is for the applause. And of course, like, it's not like I like tainted the company that was for women, but the module was not the same. The energy behind it is not the same. It didn't fulfill my spirit. And this is two very different patterns that can happen. So reconnecting to the purpose of creating for myself and not for the people only. And not out of obligation. This was very interesting and meaningful when I landed in this insight. So here is where we want to be curious about our relationship to creativity. What does it mean? What do I believe about creativity? And try to like put your consciousness on this area. Read books about creativity, and really what it is about a lot of times is lowering the need for control here, so that you can create from your inside and be vulnerable in your creation. And this is very like so easy, more easy said than done, I know, but that it's a journey here. So we just have to remember this, that if we do have a lot of challenging patterns here, like challenging archetypes and aspects, we will have a hard time with creativity, but it's only momentarily. Of course, you have it for a reason, so eventually you will come out the other side and do something very meaningful. You have such gifts to give to the world. There's a reason why you are in this, why your soul shows patterns in this area. Another thing for me, since I do have my moon here, I've noticed that it's very important for me to be creative, like always. And this can be a lot of different things. It can be just be creative with my self-expression. It can be creative with my outfits, my makeup. It can be watching creativity. For example, I really love Netflix series that are about creating something. Next in Fashion on Netflix, perfect for someone with a stellium in the 5th house. Also RuPaul's Drag Race, that is like a crash course on how to be expressive. If you analyze what RuPaul is teaching the drag queens, it's a lot about not taking things too serious and like showing people yourself without being too harsh. It's that pattern over and over again, and you can check and like analyze the contestants also, if they're critical, if they are censoring themselves, holding themselves back, or if they're just going for it. And you can, it's very interesting if you look at it like this, like if you look at the contestants and kind of see how do they express, like how freely do they express, or do they have some blockages mentally that censor their expression. And why we have blockages and censorships, it's because we don't want to be ashamed, we don't want to be laughed at. So it's very understandable due to our conditioning that happens when we are children. But we want to get away from the censorship. We want to be able to show ourselves, show the showmanship here, to be generous with our expression, because our expression helps other people be truly who they are also. Another thing you can do to be in this creative energy is also to dance, to sing is very important. Of course, if you do paint, like the classic, if you do paint, like do that, just like having this energy of you have something inside that wants to be expressed, it wants to be given out to the world. That is the energy here. And kind of, because for me, since I do have the moon here, again, it's such like this need for wanting to produce. But then again, having the opposition to my Chiron and my Saturn, it is this balance, and I need to regulate a lot, not to self-sabotage and to criticize myself too much. But again, where am I at? Am I expressing freely, or do I have this censorship? And now I will talk about the stellium in the different zodiac signs. Stellium in the 5th house in Aries is an original, courageous and initiative force in self-expression. You create to prove yourself and to feel alive. Shadow here might be ego-driven creation, impatience, competitive love, or dominance in romance. The gift here is pure creative fire. You inspire others through your fearless authenticity and willingness to begin before you're ready. You were born to begin before you're ready, to act before others even think to try. So creation for you is instinctive. It doesn't wait for permission or perfection. You learn through doing, through jumping, through trusting the flame of your own impulse. But be careful here for the impulse in its shadow. You may push too hard, compete for love, or create from ego rather than inspiration. You might fear stillness and equate rest with irrelevance. But when you surrender to the heart behind your fire, the gift emerges, and it's pure life force. You become the spark of divine will. Ignite others through courage to create without apology. A stellium in Taurus is creativity that flows through the senses, through touch, sound, and nature. You express beauty through form, art, food, and body awareness. Taurus is the sign of the embodied human, so we bring in the presence into our creation in its highest form. The shadow is attachment to comfort, resistance to change, overindulgence in sensual pleasure. And the gift is creating stability and beauty that nourishes others, grounding the divine into tangible form. The shadow here whispers of attachment. The need to feel safe can turn into resistance to change. And pleasure can become indulgence, comfort can harden into stagnation. And this is where Taurus can self-sabotage. It's too concerned with the stability and predictability. But the true security comes from presence, so not possession. And then the gift awakens. So you are here to embody safety in your expression and cultivate both patience, but also really living what you are creating through the senses, and you need to bring in that safety into your expression so that you feel safe enough. 5th house stellium in Gemini expresses creativity through words, communication, ideas, and play. It loves curiosity and variety in romance and art. So the shadow here is scattered energy, like all Gemini energy. It's a big thing to look out for. Too much scattered energy. Flirtation without depth, creative inconsistency, and this is the same here. So keeping the focus a bit intentional. The gift is inspiring others through the power of words, so teaching and transmitting ideas with joy and lightness. So the shadow here to look out for is distraction. You might have so many ideas and see so many possibilities and fear of choosing one. So indecisiveness, because there's just too many options. And that scattered energy, jumping from one creation to another, is without grounding it. Or you might hide behind words, using intellect to avoid emotional truth. But the gift again is transmission. You become kind of like a channeler. Your words, your intellect position ideas into the right structure so that you can give. Your voice becomes medicine. Stellium in Cancer in the 5th house. So we have deep emotional creativity. Art and love are extensions of your need to care and feel safe. The shadow here is emotional dependency, fear of exposure, and clinging to the familiar. The gift in the Stellium in Cancer is creating emotional worlds that heal others. Your art and love offers comfort and belonging to others. The shadow is withdrawal. When your sensitivity feels too much, you might retreat into your shell. You may fear rejection so deeply that you protect your heart by hiding it. Or you may hold on too tightly, nurturing others until you forget yourself. But when you learn that vulnerability is your greatest strength, it shifts. Your creation becomes emotional medicine. You remind others that softness is not weakness, and that love, when expressed freely, is the most creative force there is. Leo Stellium in the 5th house is a soul that seeks to shine, a creative self-expression. That is your life force. So you radiate joy, charisma, and leadership. The shadow is a need for validation, dramatization, or narcissism, even in the extreme cases. And the gift here, embodying the divine child, creation as worship, leadership through heart-centered authenticity. You express to feel the pulse of existence, to remind the world that joy is an act of courage. You lead by example, not by demand. The shadow of Leo appears when the heart closes in the fear of being unseen. So this is what I mentioned in the video about creating for applause. This can be a real big thing to look out for if you do have the stellium in Leo. This is where we can transform pride into humility if we take away the ego a bit, or at least put it into perspective what we're actually doing, and create from a place of co-creation instead of just taking all the credits to our ego. And this is the true gift of Leo. Creative radiance born from love. So you become a beacon of warmth, and a reminder to live fully is to live from the heart. So the art, the leadership, your very presence inspires others to do the same. 5th house stellium in Virgo. So creativity is service. You refine, you analyze, and bring healing through the precise and sacred craftsmanship. The shadow here can be perfectionism, self-criticism, and overthinking your art or love. The gift here is turning creation into devotion, humble mastery that uplifts and heals. And this is what I mentioned in the video. This is where you need to look out for that self-criticism, that censorship that can come in, and if you can shift your creativity as an act of service into or for your love for the humanity, you can really alchemize this negative voice, the inner critic, into creating from a place of reverence. So look out for impossible standards and fear that the creation that you do is never enough. That will make you lose the joy of expression in the pursuit of flawlessness, which is not something that is even possible to reach. Everyone's experience of creation is subjective. And this, I think, I want to mention here for you, if you have this placement, that an interesting insight that I got the other day was I might have such a hard time creating something because it's so vulnerable. It takes so much courage for me to actually expose it. And that makes my memory of that creation be very contracting, and I might judge myself. My inner critic was active. But when I actually publish it, it might touch someone. They might feel like a resonance towards whatever I was talking about, and it might give them a medicine. And because they were not involved in my creation, so they don't have my expression, all the feelings, the hardship, the contraction, they don't feel that. They have their own experience of whatever they're watching. Even though they might see the uncomfortability and the hard feelings in an energetic level, they still don't have the same inner critic narrative in their mind when they are watching whatever I produced. So that, to summarize that, your inner critic voice that comes in when you create from a place of vulnerability is not equal to the quality of whatever you created. It doesn't equal the value. That is your experience. It's the inner narrative's experience of whatever it created. And it doesn't tell you how good it is. That is very important to realize. That is just your emotional world, your mind giving you feedback based on past experiences, and maybe you're outside your comfort zone, outside what you're comfortable with, so you might get triggered, and that cascades a whole bunch of negative thoughts, and it doesn't affect your outcome of whatever you created. I just wanted to mention that because it's easy to feel like afterwards, the feeling that you have when you created something. And I think I do have like this feeling here because I do have, like I mentioned, Chiron in the 11th house in Virgo. So this gets triggered a bit for me as well. But it's very important here to remember that this is just conditioning. It's old ideas and thoughts, and the feeling that you have after you created something is not telling you the whole story. It's biased. Stellium in Libra is the creative expression through beauty, partnership, and balance. You find yourself through collaboration and aesthetic refinement. The shadow is people-pleasing, indecision, and dependence on others for validation. The gift is becoming a mirror of the divine harmony, creating art and relationships that reveal love itself. I think about Libra as the mirror sign. It's reflecting the opposites to show us totality. This makes it so that you have the opportunity to find yourself, your center, through creativity. And this is where the shadow can come in, that you are too dependent on other people, their opinions. But what's really the invitation with Libra is that you're trying to find your own center point. You're trying to experience and understand what relationships you have to other people and to other things. So the soul seeks to experience creation as union through art, through love, through collaboration. You might want to include other people in a way to get that Libra energy activated. You explore the dance of two energies meeting as one. And I think it's important here to again talk about how Libra can lose itself in reflection. So you might seek approval instead of authenticity. You might shapeshift to please or fear conflict so deeply that the truth goes unspoken. Creation may stall when you doubt your own taste, when you wait for others to affirm your balance. This is again then where we need to find our own independence and that center point when it comes to aesthetics and creation and dancing with the two forces. And I just want to say symmetry, balance, and harmony. Exploring these concepts when it comes to creation. Maybe it is finding a balance for you to know when to create, when to include others' perspective. It can even be, if you zoom in a bit, when it comes to knowing when to stop, when it is enough. Finding that beauty, that symmetry. Stellium in Scorpio in the 5th house. It's a placement that is deeply transformative when it comes to creativity. So you express from the depth of passion, pain, and rebirth. It's very intense. The shadow might be control, jealousy, obsession with intensity or recognition. The gift here is channeling the underworld into art, creating transformation and healing through emotional truth. So this is, in my mind, it's the starving artist archetype. You are not here to do stuff on the surface. You're not here to make something pretty. You're here to birth something true. This is very important for the archetype of Scorpio. Your art, your love, your presence, all of it carries the frequency of transformation. For you, creativity is intimacy with the unseen. So this is where your relationship to creativity becomes medicine for yourself first. So you go into the depth of emotion, into desire, pain, surrender, and you bring back treasures that others are too afraid to touch. The shadow here is control. You might cling to your creations, your lovers, or your outcomes, afraid to lose what gives you power. Jealousy, obsession, or secrecy can cloud your brilliance. And you may hide your light behind mystery or fear that vulnerability will destroy you. You might even be scared of this type of energy and not delve into creativity that much because you're afraid of it. When you learn to trust this force, when you become more confident in your creation and your capacity, you become the artist of transformation. Stellium in the 5th house in Sagittarius is the expression of creativity through philosophy, teaching, travel, and spiritual exploration. The shadow is restlessness, dogmatism, inability to finish what you start, and the gift is infusing creation with meaning. You inspire others through your expansive worldview and wisdom. Your creativity becomes a journey, an exploration of truth through joy. You are here to express not only what you feel, but what you've discovered. So every story, every project, every love affair becomes a classroom of the soul. You are a philosopher, artist, creating to understand the cosmos. Adventures might feed your muse, so travel, study, and honest conversations expand your palette from which you paint your life. Your creations carry the energy of freedom, optimism, and faith in what's possible. But the shadow is excess. You may seek inspiration everywhere else, everywhere outside, but within. You might run from stillness, chasing the next big idea. Dogmatism can also creep in, the belief that your truth must be the truth. But when you learn to slow down enough to listen to your inner teacher, your true gift emerges. And this is illumination through authenticity. Stellium in Capricorn in the 5th house is an individual where creativity comes with structure and ambition. You manifest ideas into form and legacy. The shadow here is creative repression, fear of failure, equating worth with productivity. The gift is building timeless creations that integrate spirit and matter, creating stability for others to grow. Your expression matures through discipline. You learn that true artistry is not born from chaos but from commitment. This is where you need to zoom out in your creative process and look in the bird's eye view. You create not from applause but from legacy. Every creation, every project you complete carries the vibration of integrity. But the shadow here whispers of self-doubt and pressure. You may fear that joy must be earned, that art must be useful to have worth. So playfulness can really be lost for a Capricorn in the 5th house. And this is what I mentioned in the video, that the joy, the playfulness needs to be there in order for it to actually be authentic, be enjoyable for you when you are creating something. But the gift of Capricorn is the ability to put things into structure, to be the architect of the invisible. So when you learn to be both serious and soulful, playful, have fun, you become the mastery with meaning. You put your art into the form of service and strength. You create from devotion. Having Aquarius in the 5th house and having a stellium here makes a person a creative genius. You are original, a rebellion, and a humanitarian. The shadow here is detachment and eccentricity without empathy. Fear of vulnerability is another one. The gift here is channeling the future. You use art, thought, and community to awaken collective consciousness. You are the visionary who colors outside the lines. Your art carries rebellion, humor, and intelligence. A language that awakens people to think, to question, and to evolve. You don't just want to create, but you want to change something. Every expression of yours is a message, a transmission from the higher mind to the human heart. But the shadow of Aquarius can feel cold. You may feel detached when others can't meet your vision, or hide behind intellect to avoid the messiness of emotion. You might fear losing your individuality, so you keep distance, even from love itself. When you open your heart, your true gift emerges. And this is revolution through authenticity. You become a channel for collective awakening, the one who reminds humanity of what is possible. Your creations ripple beyond you. They belong to something larger. And this is where it becomes so important to reconnect to the purpose of why you create something. Keep the ego on the down low, because the Aquarius has a love for the collective, but needs the individuality for the ego to actually have a relationship towards the collective. So having the reality check of, I'm creating this for the bigger picture, for this purpose, is so important. Pisces in the 5th house and Stellium here makes a person who has boundless imagination, compassion, and intuition. Creativity becomes a spiritual communion. The shadow is escapism, confusion, martyrdom, or self-sacrifice in love. The gift is transcendental art and emotional depth, dissolving boundaries between self and divine inspiration. So this is the union where we merge with oneness. And like I mentioned in the video, this is my own placement, and for my own sake, or for my own relationship towards creativity, this really feels like when I am in creativity and co-creation, I feel like I'm tapped into oneness. I feel less alone. I feel I'm connected with my soul. And this is where it really nourishes the essence part of our being. So we are a channel for beauty that belongs to the unseen. The inspiration arrives like waves. Sometimes it's gentle, sometimes it's overwhelming, but it's guided by vast, tender, and divine energy. Music, imagery, emotions all become language of the soul. But the shadow of Pisces is illusion. So we might lose ourselves in fantasy, forget boundaries. We might merge so deeply with others that we no longer know our own essence. And this results in escapism, confusion, or martyrdom that can dim the light. You might believe that you must suffer to be inspired, and this is something to be very well aware of. But when we ground our sensitivity in faith, when we let the Spirit move through us without drowning in it, the gift awakens, which is transcendence through tenderness. The creations become portals to the divine. So we show the world that creation is not an act of control. It's an act of surrender. And this is what I've talked about in the video here, that it's really about lowering the ego's influence and being as clear of a channel as you can when you are in that creativity energy. So exploring with the concept of surrendering when you are creating something for a Pisces stellium in the 5th house.